Let's throw in some Dutch news. They've got this EO, the evangelical broadcaster, and they're pushing a documentary series, you know. It's all about conspiracy theories. Now, they've got this bunch of people. It's basically Micha Kat and his pals going up against the journalist Chris Klomp, who's supposed to be the voice of reason. And, of course, he's seen as part of the system. It's like he's in on it. But I'd say it's the other way around, folks. If you're out there acting like a lunatic and making a racket all the time, that's a classic distraction tactic. And let me tell you, nobody distracts better than good old Micha Kat with his nonstop barrage of bombshell news. But that doesn't let the establishment off the hook. And I'm not buying that Chris Klomp is some kind of government shill, a debunker for hire for the royal family. Especially in a so-called democracy, it's all about controlling the narrative, ain't that right? The sheeple's opinions are more important than the truth. All right, let's dive right in. Who's got the PR gig for the royal family, huh? Who's filming all that cheerful footage of the king gallivanting around the globe? Huh. They've also an orange king over there. But who? Well, it's that NOS, the Dutch Broadcasting Foundation, paid for by their hard-earned tax money, and they want to play it all high and mighty. Oh, we're just the objective, neutral guys. Already connected through the Royal House propaganda. Have a look. It's always the NOS when it's King's Day, always. Let me explain this. They're Gladio NATO. There was a top-down group that undermined democracy called Gladio. It was part of NATO. That's Mark Rutten from the VVD. That's a significant oversight. Now, on to Prince Bernhard. I'm from the Berkshire background. My folks were into impeach Earl Warren. But you know, my real insight, though, came from Bill Cooper's Hour of the Time, where I first learned about Prince Bernhard of the Netherlands. He's basically the Dutch Gladio's godfather founder of the Bilderberg Group, as you know. A topic I know inside out. He had ties to IG Farben and CIA head Alan Dulles, who worked at Sullivan and Cromwell. He worked for IG Farben. You know that guy with that little Kennedy. He thought he was a god. Shot him right in the face, that nut job. Folks, it's a complex history talking about the Karl Wolf affair and Operation Paperclip. But what I'm saying is, public media's neutrality is questioned, and people are aware. For example, they don't know over at the NOS that Australia's like a giant CIA base with kangaroos. But for now, let's briefly focus on the Dutch. I'm not critiquing Chris Klomp's journalism. I suspect he's aware of the issues. He doesn't represent the establishment in my view. Let's recap. Satanic Panic. The evangelical broadcaster broadcasts a documentary about, spotlights figures like Micha Kat and his group, including Torchman Max, promoting belief in satanic ritual abuse. The situation presented here involves a man who believes he has recovered memories, reminiscent of the controversial case of Michelle Remembers. It raises questions about the psychological community's susceptibility to trends and its ability to critically assess its own potential for falling prey to conspiracy theories. This leads to a broader discussion on the fallibility of mental health professionals and the influence of prevailing ideas on their practice, which can obscure their view of the actual truth. It turned into a full-blown national crisis faster than you can say 1,000 points of light. Joost Neville, claiming to survive such hellish abuse as a kid, pointed fingers at the big shots, and before you knew it, we had death threats flying and sedition popping up like daisies in springtime. I got a hot question for you. What sets apart Greet op de Beek, an esteemed author and big shot in the establishment, from Joost Neville? Greet op de Beek, she says. She uncovered some deep, dark secrets in therapy, turns out. Her old man was up to no good when she was just a kid. Now, hold on tight, because it's more or less the same story as Joost Neville. She doesn't have any actual memories of it, just some secondary evidence and images that popped into her noggin. She was the host of Zomergast and Summerguests, a household name on Dutch TV. And just like psychologists and psychiatrists, folks in all walks of life get swayed by the mainstream winds, you know. And let me tell you, The anti-male bias is as real as it gets in some of those circles. But it's not a black and white deal, folks. It's more like a spectrum of beliefs. But it's essentially the same story in that sense. But you know me, I'm like that bloodhound on the scent, connecting all the dots the global elite tries to hide from you. The evangelical broadcaster EO, it's nestled right under the same big old umbrella as the NOS. The Dutch public broadcaster, you got that evangelical EO busy airing some conspiracy theory series about Micha Kat and his friends. And Greet op de Beek, well, she gets the sweet gig of hosting Zomergasten's summer guests. Now, talking about the Dutch public broadcaster, let's dive into the murky waters of KRO-NCRV. KRO-NCRV is a merger, but let's look at NCRV in particular. There's this guy, Mr. Ton Herstel, big shot at the NCRV and the Dutch Press Council. Ton Herstel taught psychological warfare for Gladio to suppress the political left. Now, that's a plot twist you wouldn't expect from a place that's supposed to be as peaceful as a Sunday picnic. It's all well documented. Journalist Frank van der Linden, he's dropping some serious knowledge bombs here. He says every darn newsroom in the Netherlands is crawling with AIVD snitches. That's the General Intelligence and Security Service we're talking about. The big brother of the lowlands, you know? Herstel was the big kahuna at the Council for Journalism. That's right, the very group that's supposed to keep our news honest and our reporters' noses clean. They're like the hall monitors for journalistic ethics, making sure everyone plays nice in the sandbox. And what does this mean for the good folks of the Netherlands, you ask? It's clear as day, my friends. They've got their very own version of a CIA-controlled media operation right under their noses. The Dutch version of the Mockingbird. Psycho Herstel, or nowadays one of his successors, could be pulling the strings, turning that free press into a mouthpiece for the powers that be. I don't want to dwell too much on Gaza, but what kind of sham reporting is that, NOS? You act all innocent, but let me tell you, it's more like Radio Rwanda. And I hope you know exactly what I'm getting at. All right, folks. So, Juice to Neville and Greet op de Beek. Now, don't go pointing fingers at them all the time. It's a condition, folks. And if you treat them bad, you're going to get all the Ted Gundersons breathing down their necks. And let's not forget, in their minds, it's as real as it gets. These mental health experts think they're above it all with their minds, but they're just arrogant as can be. And that makes them twice as dangerous. Who knew about Gladio? You know, the press, consciously or unconsciously, useful idiots. But they made it work, so they were in on it. And let's not forget Bolkestein, a big member of the VVD, the People's Party for Freedom and Democracy. Yeah, they were in the loop too. This guy, he sat down with Noam Chomsky, of all people. Can you believe it? They had a showdown, a debate. And what does Bolkestein tell Chomsky? He says, look, support Drugzak is about manufacturing that support. Drugzak, so we can do whatever the hell we want. This guy, he's got the audacity to sit there and debate with someone like Chomsky, but he's also got the guts to admit that it's all a game, a charade, you know? It's about keeping the people in the dark while they do their dirty work. Now, let's talk about next time you see the news. You sit there, you see them all, right? Suits and ties, talking in the same old tone. They throw in that ID politics to keep us bickering like children over a toy. Divide and conquer, it's the oldest trick in the book. They don't want us to come together, to organize from the ground up. No, sir. They want us all fired up about the latest femicide or what have you. Why was that woman killed? Because she was a woman. That's the kind of thing they'll have us believing. It's so simple, it's almost laughable. Now, let's talk about the royal family for a hot minute. When they're gallivanting around, who's doing their PR? Who's shooting the footage? Who will broadcast his Christmas speech? Always the NOS. It's all connected. The royal family, the big corporations like Philips, they all had their fingers in the gladio pie. Back then and back now. And the P then to A, the Labor Party, calling themselves left-leaning, give me a break. They knew about it too, CDA included. It's like they're playing us all for fools. Are we living in a state of hypernormalization? You bet we are. And it's by design, folks. They want us numb. They want us distracted. But why? So they can keep doing their thing without any pesky questions. But look, what's in it for these mockingbirds? Whose do they get as a reward for that manufactured consent? Well, they get the people like Micha Kat. He is like a dog barking up the wrong tree, or like a cat scratching the wrong post. But the problem, it's not the cat, it's the post. And let's not forget Chris Klomp. The guy's got good intentions, sure. But no matter how annoying they find each other, Chris Klomp and Micha Kat, in a democracy, you need annoying people. You need those dogs that'll bark and bite, those cats that'll hiss and scratch, those folks that'll keep poking at the status quo. It's like I always say, you got to keep your sights set. Come together and aim right, you know? And for Micha Kat, if he listens, I think you might know that a clothing brands do research on their customers, right? For example, identifying the target audience. And very, 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 very important in a certain segmentation understanding, customer preferences. Well, here's a clothing brand called Balenciaga. It's an expensive brand, not a cheap one. You could say it's the clothing of the elite. Like I said, it's very, 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 very important in a certain segmentation. Understanding customer preferences.